Hello guys, my name is Amin and welcome to Real World Microservice playlist. On this playlist, I will teach you about stuff in microservice that you will learn with the years of experience on microservice on a real project. Be smart and learn it now and stop wasting your time on the future. On this session, I will talk about microservice communication mistakes that you might make. Microservice is one of the popular software architecture for enterprise applications. One of the challenges in microservice is transforming data between your services, which we know it as communication between microservices. On this session, I will teach you about common mistakes in enterprise application that I've been seeing on the real world. And by learning stuff that I'm talking about in this video, you will not making those mistakes on your projects. Before I start this session, I got advice for you. If you are new on microservices and you're trying to develop new feature on your application, review your feature communication with other services and check if it breaks any microservice principle or not. And if it does, just use ChatGPT, Google, and other stuff to avoid breaking microservice principle. Application programming interface, or better known as API. If you're a programmer, you definitely know about APIs. You can use API to communicate between your microservices, but it's not that easy. Why? Because one of the most important principle on microservice is that your microservices cannot know about each other's existence. It means that if you have shipping microservice, you can't use order microservice API directly to get information from your order microservice. If you want to communicate with API, you can use service discovery for this use case, but it won't end here. For example, your order microservice is not available. What happened? What happened is your microservice will break down because you're using API and they're dependent. And one of the most important principle on microservice is your microservices cannot be dependent. They should be independent. So, on this scenario, you can use cache data. You can cache your microservices data for other microservices, or you can replace that feature with other features. For example, on your landing page, you are showing your last products and your product microservice is not available. You can use news microservice for showing the latest news on your blog or whatever. Message bus. If you are familiar with microservices, you definitely know about message bus and message brokers. So your message bus can be single point of failure on your project. So it's important to use message broker that gives you high level features to help you limiting your message bus failure and helps you to avoid being distributed monolith and fail on your microservices. You can use Kafka, RabbitMQ, and other stuff. These are my advice to you, but why I'm telling you your message broker can be single point of failure on your project? Because just think about it, what will happen if your message bus goes down? All of your microservices will go down. So message bus is double-edged. It can fail whole of your project or make it better. It's dependent on you to how to behave to not fail on your microservices. Why did I recommend you to use Kafka or RabbitMQ? The reason is they gave you some feature that helps you to manage your messages when your microservices are not available. But what will happen if your message bus is not available? On this situation, you can use outbox pattern. It's a pattern that gives you ability to save your messages on your database or wherever you want to save and send it later to message brokers. But if you don't know about outbox pattern and pulling publisher, just leave a comment and I will record some videos about it and give you some real world samples. Read-only data. You can use read-only data in your microservices to transform data and communicate between your microservices. But how are you gonna do that? Let me give you an example. For example, you have online shop microservices and one of your services named order microservice needs some data from user microservice to complete its process. On this situation, you can use ETL or use events to sync data between two or many microservices. But it doesn't mean that your order microservice can change the data or add data or whatever it want to do. Saving the data on order microservice is for read-only purposes, and user microservice is owner of that data, and data can only change by user microservice. Let me just mention that by using ETL and other third parties, you're being dependent on third parties and it has cost, and you have to make sure that your third parties are available, because if they break down, your microservice won't complete its mission. The last mistake I want to tell you about, it's single database. In many enterprise applications that I've seen based on microservices, they are single database. That's awful. Why? It can break whole of your microservice. What? Just think about what will happen if your database goes down. Whole of your microservices will go down. And it's one of the principles of microservice that if one of your microservice goes down, the others must keep working on the purpose. They have to complete their purpose without being dependent on any other services. Before I finish this video, I just want to tell you that your business is important than anything else. The whole purpose of microservice creation was solving a business problem. So don't be prejudiced about anything, even don't be prejudiced about .NET Framework and C#. Use whatever language that your business needs. For example, if you are doing artificial intelligence, use Python because it gives you some libraries that helps your problem. But if you want to do on C#, ML doesn't give you much. So don't be prejudiced and just think that your business is important than anything else, and it has higher level, because without business your application is useless. I'm not agree with two-phase commit. Why? Because, for example, what will happen if one of your services was not available? Your microservices will be dependent. But when it's come to business, when you have very high level and important business that needs to happen at the same time, so you must use two-phase commit. Why? For example, you have payment microservice and you have some financial operation which needs to be very careful about. With a single mistake you can lose billions of dollars. So on this situation you can use that. Your business needs data security, not availability. So just sacrifice availability to the data security as less as it's possible to not break the microservice. Just remember, you don't want to be distributed monolith, because you pay the cost of microservices, but you get monolith app dependency. So with today's technology, there is less use case that needs to follow this principle. Like, it's okay to break microservice principle for business. There's very many, a few of them. So before you do anything, just research about it and just. So hope that I can help you today. And if you like this video, just share this video to your friends and like this video and leave a comment. Thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like it.